October, and we're headed over to check out the Lefferts Deer Camp. Fall's on its way, and I think they're preparing their cabin. We'll see what's going on. Okay, so we just arrived at the Lefferts Deer Camp, and I'm with Scott and Jason, and they'll tell you a little bit about the camp.
All right, this camp was put here by a man named Sidney Clapp about the time the reservoir was filled, and most of it came up from out of the reservoir. He was an engineer on the project, so he had the ability to take buildings that were being dismantled. And it was drawn up here in pieces by horse. It was assembled here between, in various stages between 1907 and 1914. Sidney Clapp was an engineer. His job was to go up all these little brooks and make sure that the outhouses weren't running into the brooks anymore. And he had to do it through the whole watershed. So that goes all the way up past Big Indian, and anywhere that flows into this, that was his job. He was a scoutmaster. And my connection with the camp was through a guy named Jacob Langthorne. And his scoutmaster was the guy that put the cabin here, Sidney Clapp. And his troop were of the first 7 Eagle Scouts there ever were. There were 3 in New York City, and then there were 5 from West Shokan. And he was in that group. He bought it from his scoutmaster in 1947. And started having guys come up to hunt. There weren't a lot of deer back then, but there were some deer. They did small game hunting. All these trees you see here weren't here then. I have photos of it, and it was all saplings, maybe 6 to 10 feet tall. This mountain is called Blackberry, and they used to burn it every year so the blackberries would come in. And Jack remembers that. Jack lived to be 100 years old, so he died in
1993, I think.
no 1997 or 98. I can't
Oh,
remember. At 97, because he was 100 years old. He died right after his 100th birthday. So he remembers all this old stuff. When my dad was very young, he came up here at 16 to hunt deer with some guys from Long Island. And he came here up and hunted deer until I was around the right age to come. And about that time he dropped out of it, I started hunting here. And Jack was a real mentor to me and like sort of a stand-in grandfather. You know, we hunted together, we kept an eye on him. He started getting pretty old. But for some reason, even in his 80s, he was up on top of the mountain for lunch before we were. You know, we'd always arrange to meet somewhere, and that way we could sort of keep tabs on him and he could keep tabs on us. And we'd build a little campfire, because at that age you needed the warmth. And he hunted up until he was 97 years old.
Wow.
So that was pretty neat. But we had to bring him up in a Jeep then.
Amazing.
So when he died, his family decided to sell it to us hunters, and there were only 2 of us interested in it. And the estate was very generous to us. They sold it for what the tax value was at the time. They could have gotten a lot more, but they didn't. And but they realized that we sort of kept an eye on Jack, and it meant a lot to us. So we all hunted together. That went on for years, and then just recently I acquired the half from the other partner. So now it's going to be a Lefferts camp. And we've brought a lot of deer here. We've had 3 and 4 at a time hanging here. We've taken a few bears from here. I killed my first buck up on that end of the mountain. My son killed his first buck over on that end of the mountain. So there's the big steps in growing up.
Yeah, great history.
I was 16 when I got my first buck, and I just couldn't believe my good luck. First time I came here, I was 4 years old, and I could stand on this porch and look up this way, and I could see the tops of the mountains. If you pan over there, you'll see there's just trees, but those trees have grown up now, and there's quite a bit higher than the horizon. But that shows how long that was. I guess that would be 56 years ago. That's how much the trees have grown in that amount of time. And at that time, we took a walk up, and there was another camp up there that's now gone. And the porcupines had chewed the hell out of it. They chewed holes all in it. And I was 4 years old and wondered what kind of an animal would eat holes in a house. And they told me a porcupine. So they're describing a porcupine, but in my 4-year-old mind, I'm hearing Stegosaurus. Same description, just the size was a little off. And I wanted to get back to this cabin because I didn't want this monster to eat this place. So I wouldn't shut up about porcupines. So as I was a kid, they used to call me the Porcupine Kid. That was a heck of a nickname.
My first deer, I got on the same mountain. I actually shot it with the very same rifle my dad shot his deer with. I've never been an early riser myself. My dad always likes to give me a hard time about the way I deer hunt. I sleep until, I feel like waking up, and then I go in the woods. So it was mid-season, and all the other hunters were off on different mountains. I came to the cabin and walked in the woods at, maybe a little after lunchtime. And I started walking up some logging roads and not really expecting much out of the hunt, just figured I'd have a real nice hike that day. And I ended up walking up on a very nice 7-pointer. And I froze, and I watched him, and he walked right towards me. And I got him at probably about 35 yards, and dragged him right out here and hung him on the cabin. And then waited in this very rocking chair for my dad to show up from his day of hunting. And you've never seen a more proud father to come back up and see his son with his first buck sitting on the porch of the cabin.
I bet. What a memory. Great story. Scott, what did you think when you saw that?
Oh, it was just awesome.
It was a good day. That was a good year. We had a lot of bucks hanging that year, I think.
Yeah, I think we did. There you go.
All right, well, thank you for having us, Scott.
Sure. Thanks for coming.
We appreciate all the
welcome
history.
here.